Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as mmonska. The show notes for this episode and all the other episodes are on the blog, which is stitchedsweden.blogspot.com, and our Ravelry group is called Stitched in Sweden. So you are welcome to come over there and join. That's where I post the announcement of the episode, and knit along is happening over there. People are helping each other out with that, answering questions, showing their progress, and it's also a place where you can find a discussion about the question that I ask at the end of most episodes. So today I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. First I'll start out with this week in Stockholm. I have some works in progress again, and no finished objects this week. I do have a technique tip and a question to ask you guys. And I think that'll be about it. So, first I wanted to start out and say Happy Memorial Day to everyone who is in the US. I hope that means that some of you, or many of you, have gotten a chance for a little bit of extra knitting this week, or just enjoying the holiday. So this week in Stockholm, let's see, this week in Stockholm was a pretty cold week, but it's just rainy here sometimes, and it's really funny because right now in Boulder, where I'm from, it has been unseasonably rainy and wet, or just like uncharacteristically rainy and wet, not even unseasonably, it's just never really that rainy there for an extended period of time. So now it's been maybe 2 weeks of rain in a row where there's been very little sunshine, and it's funny to me from now sort of like an outsider living here, where we have many days in a row of no sunshine, especially in the winter, that everyone is desperately seeking the sun and super excited when it comes out, even just for a couple minutes. So it's just a little bit funny to me. Whatever. Anyway, this week in Stockholm was Thomas's birthday, so we went out to dinner on Wednesday and we went to a movie as well. So that was fun to just kind of go out for a little bit, and I noticed two interesting things about living here that I thought I might share with you, because I know a lot of you are interested to know more about Sweden and Stockholm. And so there's two things that I thought were kind of funny, or whatever, just different from the US, that I noticed this week. One, while we were at the movies. When you go to the movies here, I've never had this experience anywhere else that I've been to the movies in the US, but maybe it exists. When you go to the movies here, when you buy your ticket, you are assigned a specific seat. So on your ticket is your exact row and seat number, just like on an airplane. And they ask you, where do you want your seat to be, sort of. And, you say, okay, middle, a little bit higher up, or whatever. And they put you, and however many people you're with, next to each other, as close as they can to sort of where you want to be. Or if you buy your tickets online, then you get to see the movie theater just like an airplane when you're picking your seats, and you get to select where you want to sit. And, I mean, it makes so much sense, because when you get to the movie theater, there's none of that, especially if it's a crowded movie. This wasn't a crowded movie because we went sort of in the afternoon anyway. But there's none of that, like, everyone kind of, is that free, is that free, like climbing over each other to get into a seat, because everyone knows exactly where they're going. So it's very orderly, and it's just kind of amusing to me, but it seems to make things go a lot more smoothly. Also, you can't select a seat with like one seat in between someone else. So if you're trying to select 2 seats online, you can't leave a space between you and the other 2 people who are sitting there. So if it's a really packed movie, everyone's going to be packed in with no extra spaces. You could leave 2 seats open, but never just 1. So, random interesting fact about going to the movies here. Another random interesting thing that I've noticed this a couple times, but it was particularly noticeable when we were out on Wednesday, is that there is a different sort of, I've noticed that there's a little bit of a different feeling of what your responsibility is as an individual person to be able to, like, make your way through life. Or, I don't know, that sounds like really dramatic. It's not dramatic. For example, you're expected to have, like, a certain level of self-awareness and common sense, specifically in construction zones or construction on streets. So we've been having some construction just on the street outside of our house for months now. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it involves them digging deep holes in the ground on the street. And on our street, we just have a little street, like hardly any cars really drive on it. It's not busy at all. On that little street, there's only a sidewalk on one side of the road. But because there's really no cars, a lot of times you just, like, walk down the middle of the street. But while they've been doing this construction, you can't walk down the middle of the street because there's big tractors and stuff. And so the interesting thing is, like, that I've noticed is that even when you're walking on the sidewalk and there's big scooper truck things, I don't know what they're called, but, you know, big tractors with scoops digging out the dirt in these holes, they expect you, from what I have been able to gain, they expect you to be really alert and aware of what's going on. If the tractor is moving, there's not going to be somebody standing there to tell you, stop, wait, don't go, like, the tractor's moving and, you know, holding up the traffic, which may just be one person walking on the street. There's no one there directing traffic to tell you you have to wait because the tractor's swinging its big arm over the sidewalk, for example. Or, like, oh, you want to walk here still? Well, then you're going to have to climb over those pipes in order to keep walking. Totally different than in the U.S., in my experience. So this weekend we were walking in the city, pretty close to the center of the city, in a busy area, and it was probably around 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. No, it was around 7 o'clock, because it was after dinner. Around 7 o'clock, and they were laying a new road. Like, it was all ground up, you know, and now there was the truck coming in and putting down the new tar or something, and then the other truck, or they had already done that, but they were scrubbing it away, and, like, one truck was pressing it down or something, right? This is all happening in the middle of the street, and they haven't stopped traffic at all. So there's 2 tractors that are kind of like zooming around, and the guys who are driving the tractors are just going about their business, doing their road work, and the cars who want to come are kind of just like, okay, can I go? Can I go? Yep, okay, go. So there's no one saying, like, okay, here's the stop sign, wait, okay, now tractors are out of the way, come through. Same with the pedestrians. So I'm crossing the street, and I'm like, I don't think that tractor sees me, even though it was a green little Walkman for the crossers. So it's just, like, surprising. And I thought maybe before, when I had this experience on the little street outside my house, maybe it was, you know, because there's hardly anyone who walks by, and it's a small street, so what can you really expect? But this was in the middle of the city. So, anyway, enough of a tangent, but just some interesting things about Sweden that I noticed this week. So I did receive some really nice mail this week, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that I received. So first I got a lovely package from Olivia, and she is This Handmade Life on Instagram. So I realized that I didn't cover up my address or hers, but she sent me just a sweet package, and the package itself was so much fun, and so I was really excited to open it because I really love packaging, and a random thing is that I really love addressing things. So, like, if you have a million things to address, like party invitations or wedding invitations or something, I want to do it because I really just like it. Anyway, random. She sent me a sweet, sweet package with some lovely teas. I really do love drinking tea. And she sent me this beautiful sachet, which is out of Handspun, and she said it wasn't her handspun, but it is Handspun, and it's lavender, and she has the lavender in sort of like in tea bags in here, which is a really good idea because then obviously with crochet you would need that because the holes are quite a bit larger than in knitting in this case, so that they don't fall out. You can see kind of like the white part in there. Looks like it's a tea bag to me. So this is beautiful, and I've been keeping that in some of my project bags so that my projects smell nice and lavendery. And then she also sent so many different little minis of yarn, and I'll show you some of them here. And she labeled them, and these colors are just beautiful. And they're all, there's one that's a speckled yarn, but then otherwise they're all tonal or semi-solid, and it's really me. I really like them. I talked a little bit about that last week, of how I had sort of found myself transitioning and growing as a knitter and like being more attracted to solid yarns where they're beautiful yarns, but the focus is perhaps more on the pattern that you're knitting rather than just letting the yarn do the knitting for you. Or not do the knitting for you. Self-knitting yarn. No. As I've developed as a knitter, I think I have gone from loving self-striping all the time because the yarn was the interesting part about the project, and so I could do a really simple project and I didn't have to have a lot of techniques or skills to knit it, to now where I appreciate beautiful yarn and I love knitting with beautiful yarn, but the project, the final project, is maybe more about the pattern. So, for example, some of these that she sent me are Tanis Fiber Arts, Hedgehog Fibers, Dream in Color, Madeline Tosh, Merino Light, Orange Flower, Juno Fiber Arts, the Yoth Little Brother, more Juno Fiber Arts, Oval, another Orange Flower, and some more Madeline Tosh. And so this is really, it's really exciting because, well, she labeled all of them, you can see. Many of them also have the color name. All of them do, I think, which is just so thoughtful. And all of these, almost all of them, are yarns that I've never tried. I have tried Madeline Tosh before, and I have tried Dream in Color, but not in the base that she sent me. So all new yarns, all beautiful yarns, many of which I have been wanting to try. So that was really fun. And I'll show you what I've been working on with those in just a little bit. So that was from Olivia, and it was just so sweet and so much fun to open that package, and she says she just really enjoys sending people things, and I could see that just from her packaging that she, probably like me, enjoys packaging of things. I also got a lovely package from a viewer, and she sent me a couple of mini skeins as well, and she sent little labels on them too, saying what they are. This is Hazelnuts, another yarn that I haven't tried that I've been wanting. This is in the Poppy colorway. This is a 70% superwash, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon base. It's a beautiful red. So there's that one, and she sent me some speckled cotton yarn. So that'll be fun. And then also a little mini skein of the discontinued Knit Picks Felici sock yarn in the Jelly Bean colorway. And I know this is a self-striping yarn, so it will be cool, I think, if I can get, especially if I can get like one color per hexagon. I think I will. Otherwise, you know, it will also be cool because I could have mostly one color for the inside and then an outside color too. So I'm looking forward to crocheting up those. But she sent me, she had contacted me that she has been really enjoying the podcast, and she was heading to Maryland Sheep and Wool, and she was wondering if she could pick me up something. So she sent me this beautiful watercolor card with just a really lovely note inside. And I think this is probably the little entrance pin, maybe what you wear, you know, when you pay or are admitted into the festival. So that is cool because it also has a little watercolor sheep on it. And she sent some of her favorite chapstick, which is these little EOS ones that come in a little ball. And I have been enjoying these very much this week. And she also sent this lovely little package, which is some fabric that she had, which is a hand-dyed fabric. Kind of looks like, almost like petals or water droplets. And inside this package, she had picked up some beautiful wool for spinning. And so here it is. This is a Merino Tussa Silk 70% 30% blend, and it's 4 ounces. And it's just a lovely, soft, multicolored, but very subtle braid of fiber. And it's called Sandstone, which I think is a really perfect name for it. And this is from Clover Leaf Farms, it's probably. It's hard because the R is next to the N. It looks like, no, the R is next to the M. Whatever. I think it's Cloverleaf Farms. And they have a website, which is cloverleaffarms.com. Super pretty. Really looking forward to spinning this. I think it will be really nice with this silk content in there. So thank you so much for sending that to me. I would love to go to some of the larger fiber festivals, especially the ones that are on the East Coast in the US, but I have been lucky enough to go to the Estes Park, I don't know what it's called, Estes Park Wool Festival, I think, which is maybe next week or the week after. It's always right around my birthday. So I have been lucky enough to go there twice, and it's fun to go there, and they have, of course, the vendor barns with people selling wool and other products made from sheep and fiber and things like that, but also all the animals and goats and llamas and Paco vicuñas, which are so cute. So that's a lot of fun. But anyway, thank you for that sweet package. Alright, so the last thing I got in the mail this week was something that I had ordered. And I ordered this, and one of my friends in the US sent it to me along with a little birthday tea. So that was lovely. And this is 3 skeins of the Quince & Company Turn, which is their 70% wool, 30% silk, I think. Let's see, what is it? Yeah. It doesn't say the percentage on here. Oh yeah, 75% American wool and 25% silk. And this is in the terracotta colorway, which is color number 416. And this is made a US made yarn, and if you haven't heard about Quince & Company, you should go over to their website directly. They have beautiful yarn, and they have beautiful packaging, and they also have a really, most importantly, I guess, they have a really good, not motto for their shop, but they have a really purposeful, what would I say? They're mindful about their practices for making yarn. So a lot of yarn is made in China, and it's like very manufactured. But this, and you wouldn't necessarily know it because even yarn that's hand-dyed yarn, so you think like, oh, this is locally made, but the base yarn itself might be manufactured in China. So, whatever. This yarn is 100% made in the US, and it's beautiful yarn, and it is I believe, the mill that they use is a semi-woolen, semi-worsted. I'm not positive on that, but it results in a very springy yarn that is beautiful for really good stitch definition in cables especially, and it is still really light, so it's not super dense. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to knit with these yet. I've been looking at the Bloom shawl, which is by Mandarins, and she knit the shawl in this exact yarn, in this color. Which is funny because I ordered this yarn without knowing that this is what she had used, and I was thinking about making it for something else, but that is such a beautiful shawl that it might just have to be, what this is. So I think this will look nice, and it will be a pretty spring color as well as a fall color, and it will go well with my gray wool jacket. So I got that this week, and I got some lovely tea from Eugene, Oregon, and thank you, Kira. So, moving on to what I have been working on this week. The first thing that I worked on is my Swedish Spring 3.0, is what I'm calling it, shawl. I just did a couple more rows on this, and it's growing slowly but surely. And I'm knitting this on US 5 needles, which is a 3.75 millimeter, and I'm knitting it on the ChiaoGoo lace needles. So they're the ones with the red cord and no bend here in the needle. So that is just coming along, and I'm sure that it will get more work on it today, this week, because I am knitting this for our knit-along, which is happening right now in the Ravelry group, and I would love it if you would like to come over and join in my little bag from Holland Handmade. And the knit-along will be ending on Friday, June 5th, and I will probably close it sometime before I go to bed, which will be, or maybe when I wake up on the 6th, which will be in the afternoon in the US, if you are knitting from the US. But, yeah, so just really quick about the knit-along. You can tag your projects on Ravelry and Instagram as hashtag springlattice, KAL. And you can go over in the Ravelry group, there's a chatter thread as well as the finished object thread, and all you need to do is be a member of the group and post your final picture in the finished objects thread to be eligible to win a prize. And I just wanted to say how exciting it has been to see everyone's projects that they are working on in the chatter thread especially, and over on Instagram. But a lot of people have sent me messages or wrote on there that this is their first time trying lace, or their first time knitting a shawl, first time knitting from charts, and that is so awesome. And I am just really excited to hear so many of you trying new things and being encouraged to try new things, because I mean, really, it's just knitting. It's just yarn. You can rip it out. It's not going to be the end of the world, and you might learn something really cool and be able to just grow from there. So, really exciting. Love seeing all your posts, and when you tag me on Instagram, I always see those as well. So, lots of fun. So that is Swedish Spring, and I will, like I said, be knitting some more of that this week. The other project that I worked on a lot this week is the Sparrow Tunic, which is a tunic design based on a tunic in Anthropologie. And I'm knitting this up for my mom. So it's not my own design, and therefore I won't be releasing this as a pattern. I know some of you have asked me to do that, but it's not going to happen. So I'm sorry to tell you that, but like, it is somebody else's design, so, and in a way I'm sort of copying it, even though I don't feel very bad about it because I'm not going to be copying it for my own, I'm only using it for my own purposes. I'm not going to be selling the pattern, and it's not a pattern, it's just a picture that I saw. So I'm making up all the instructions and the yarn and the gauge and everything like that. So yeah, but it won't be available as a pattern. Here it is, and this is the front. You can see that, well, this side is more blocked than this side, which is curling in quite a lot. But you can see the front here, the garter stitch panel in the top. I seamed this all together down the front. This garter section, this rib section will be at the waist to provide a little shaping there. There is also shaping in the pattern that I made. There's the armhole. There's going to be 1 inch of ribbing on all the seams for this, and then so I left the front arm seams on stitch holders with little tails in case I need to make them, with quite big bits of yarn left in case I need to extend those. And then I knit the entire left back, and I have it just sort of pinned together with some stitch markers right now so that I could get an idea of the armhole depth. And this is curling an insane amount, like it's just a little sausage, but this actually will be half of the back. And you can see that I did some 4x1 ribbing on part of the back, and then the bottom is just stockinette stitch with some ribbing at the bottom. And those pins that you see there mark my shaping decreases so that when I knit the other half of the back, I will be able to count and match up where the shaping points happen. So that is the Sparrow Tunic, and I'm knitting that on, again, a US size 5, and that's the 3.75 millimeter, and I'm using my Hiya Sharp interchangeable needles for this project, which I like a lot. The yarn for that is the Onion Organic Fino, what is it called? Onion Fino and Nettles, I think. Onion Fino Wool and Nettles. And it's a plant fiber and wool based yarn. And it has been hurting my fingers just a little bit because it doesn't have the same elasticity as wool does, but not so much, and I just could work on it for a little bit and then pick something else. So I'm hoping to get a big chunk of that done in the upcoming week as well. We will see. The last thing that no, not the last thing. Another thing that I actively worked on this week is some circles that will be hexagons for my honeycomb blanket. And all of these came from the package that Olivia sent. So I was going to leave all of these beautiful little mini skeins so that I could show you them, but then I decided I couldn't wait. And I crocheted up one circle from each color. So this is the Dream in Color. This is some Juno Fiber Arts. A beautiful salmon-y color. This is the Yoth. It's so fun to see all of the different bases and colors crochet up. Isn't the backside fun too? Crochet. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's super fun. I love these colors. And here's a Hedgehog Fiber Arts teacup. Just has little specks of some pink and browns and greens in there. Tons of fun. So all of these are ready to go into my hexagon blanket and get the white border on them. But for some of these, actually for all of these, probably for the darker ones, because some of them are Madeline Tosh, and I have had experience before with Madeline Tosh bleeding some color when it's washed. So like for these 5 darker ones, I will wash these before I add them into the blanket with the white border so that I don't risk them bleeding into that. But I will still have enough for definitely a second one of all of these colors, and maybe even a third with maybe some complement color in there as well. But I'm sort of planning on having all of the ones from her to be in one section because they go so well together, and I think it would be fun to have a little patch of the blanket that I know is from her. So, loving those and really enjoying that project. The last thing that I actively worked on this week is the Water Lily top, and this is a pattern from Pom Pom Quarterly. It's in my lovely bag, which is perfect for this project, a great size. This is a bag by Nina, and she has the Knitting Expat podcast, as well as she will soon have an Etsy shop called Mina Makes. She sent this bag to me in a swap that we did. I talked about that last week. So I'm working on the Water Lily, like I said, which is a pattern by Megan Fernandez, and it's in the Pom Pom Quarterly magazine. And I have knit the body and the back. So the bottom is curling a ton. I know that it's going to block flat. And this back part with the lace obviously needs to be blocked out a lot. But it's going to be really nice, I think. And I am still on just my 3rd ball of the Drops Alpaca Silk. And I'm using Drops Baby Alpaca Silk in color 1760, which is called like light gray purple, I think, online in some places. I'm knitting this on US 4, which is 3.5 millimeter high sharp interchangeables. And it's going well. I have, like I said, finished the back. I've separated now, and I'm just working across the braid, the horizontal braid that goes across the front. And it goes across the back too, but that's where I am on the front. And that moves me into my technique tip for this week. In this pattern, there are very good instructions for how to do the lateral braid. I'll show it to you on the back. You can see right here that these stitches make a braid that's going horizontal to the other direction of the way stitches normally go. and it makes a nice dividing line between the lace and the stockinette panel. In the pattern, the instructions are clear, but they require that you cut the yarn and that you make a guess as to how long of a piece of yarn that you will need. And they give you a suggestion to make it, you know, something like 6 times the length of something. I can't remember exactly, because I didn't do it that way. So what I wanted to tell you is that I know a lot of you probably have already made this sweater, but if you were thinking of making it, you can do the lateral braid without cutting the yarn. And if you can do something without cutting yarn, why not? So right now I am partway through the lateral braid, and I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration on how to do it. Okay, so you don't know it, but I'm about to tell you that I have actually been gone for quite some time now, and I am returning to you to re-record the second part of this podcast because it got eaten by my computer. My computer's 8 years old. Yeah, it's frustrating, but anyway, so what I was just about to tell you was that I would like to show you how to do the lateral braid like is needed in the water lily. And that's this part here that is the horizontal stitches. And before, when I recorded this, I had just done about halfway across the braid, so I was in a good place to show you. But now, as you can see, I have knitted 2 rows of the lace, and so I've already finished the lateral braid. So what I'll do instead is just show you on my Swedish Spring 3.0 shawl. I'm obviously not putting a lateral braid into this, but this is the only thing that I have on the needles right now that is easy to show you this with. So here is the tutorial. Now, obviously this is not an ideal setup because I need both of my hands for knitting, and this is the best I can do right now. So basically what we want is to get these lateral stitches going across here. And what you need to do is quite simple. When you're at the edge of your fabric, so starting here, you cast on 1 stitch using the cable cast on method, but you only do that the very first time. From then, you will always be switching 1 stitch from your right needles over to your left needle. So now what you're going to do to start the lateral braid is go in through the back loop of the 2nd stitch on your left needle, and you're going to knit that stitch, and without pulling it off, you're going to knit into the front loop of the 1st stitch on the needles. And then pull them both off, transfer 1 stitch from the right to the left needles, go into the back loop of the 2nd stitch and knit that stitch without taking any of them off the needles, then go into the 1st stitch on the needles and knit that one and pull them both off. Basically, you just continue like that all along until you have worked all of the stitches. And that's it. So you get a nice lateral braid. So if that wasn't clear enough, which it might not have been, it was definitely easier to see on the lighter colored yarn when I recorded this the first time. You can also check out the links that I have included on both my project page for my water lily top and also in the show notes for this week's episode. So yeah, but hopefully that will help you a little bit. Since recording, my mail came, and I would like to take this time to show you 2 prizes that we have for, well, not 2 prizes. I would like to take this time to show you 1 prize that we have for the knit-along that's going on right now, which I talked about a little bit earlier is the Spring Lattice KAL. So Luli of Shop Luli on Etsy sent 2 bags, and one of them is for you guys for a prize, and one of them is for me. Here is the bag that I got. Here's her card, and it's etsy.com/shop/shopluli. And as you can see, this just came beautifully packaged with some washi tape and nice tissue paper. And I have carefully pulled off the tape so that I can show you guys without messing it up. And this one will be the prize bag. So it has a really nice handle here. This is definitely in a thicker weight, like home decor fabric, kind of like a canvas fabric. I'm not that good with fabric terms, but it is a nice heavy weight and it gives it some good structure. It has a squared off bottom of the bag, and on the inside are some nice pockets in there, as well as just a nice plain white lining, which I really like for project bags because it makes it really easy to see what's in your bag, especially if you have like scissors in the bottom of your bag or some stitch markers floating around. The white interior is really nice. She does a really professional finishing job here on the inside using some bias tape, I think, and then just that nice white fabric on the inner part. And then it has 2 little drawstring cords here, pulls into the middle, and you get a really nice project bag. So I believe that is her medium size, and then this one is the small. Really cute little birds. This one also has the red bias tape here. It's making a really nice finished edge for the drawstring to be in. And then it has the white fabric on the inside with some pockets, and this one is like one pocket split down the middle, and the pockets in the white fabric on this one. So thank you so much, and one of the heart bag will be a prize for the Cal. So exciting, and all you have to do to be eligible to win that prize is to enter a finished shawl in the finished object thread on Ravelry for the Knit-A-Long. So thank you again, Lily, and go and check out her Etsy shop. Okay, so finally this week I wanted to do a little question and answer, and this week I have 2 questions, and one of them is from Allison, who is Sticks and Spokes on Ravelry, and she is from Scotland, and she has a question for all of you guys. Last week I talked a little bit about how I have a wool sensitivity, or I have a sensitivity to alpaca specifically, and I have also had a more of a sensitivity to wool in the past. And she asks, so what types of yarn, if any, do you struggle to knit with, or wear? Do you have any strategies for overcoming these other than just manning up? She said she noticed that she's really affected by the temperature outside and what she's able to wear. So if it's quite cold outside, like in the winter, she can wear more rustic wools on her skin, whereas if it is much warmer, she finds that some wools that she can wear in the winter, she just can't, and they just itch her so much and her skin turns red. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say over in the discussion thread for this episode episode number 18, or you can also leave a comment in the YouTube comments. In my experience, well, when I first started out knitting, I was mostly knitting with really soft yarns, what felt soft to my hands. So I did knit with some bamboo in the beginning, I knit with some acrylic, and I knit with a lot of sock yarn. And that was mostly merino, nylon yarns. And I don't knit with acrylic yarn anymore. I just don't like to. It's not fun for me to knit with. It feels too plasticky and it squeaks on the needles, and it doesn't hold its shape well or bounce back like wool does, and it will degrade over time. So I just don't knit with acrylic. Wool, on the other hand, is lovely, and it has so many amazing characteristics that are just really great for knitted fabric and for sweaters, and I won't go into the positive characteristics of wool right now, because I'm sure that a lot of you know them, but maybe that could be a discussion for another time. But when I decided that I wanted to knit, I knew I wanted to knit with nice yarn, because that's, part of it is being able to pick beautiful yarn, and I was quite sensitive to wool at that point. I couldn't even wear merino wool next to my skin. It was itchy, and I really didn't think that I would ever be able to wear wool, which is kind of a bummer if you are a knitter. So I did some research, and I found out that people had gotten over their wool sensitivities by just exposing themselves more and more to wool. So basically what would have been ideal is that while I was a baby, I could have been exposed to more wool, but that didn't happen. So at this point I was wondering, can I still change my wool sensitivity and make it so that I'm not as sensitive anymore? And what I found is that, in fact, I could. So the more and more I exposed myself to different kinds of wools, the less sensitive I became to them. And things that I, in the beginning, would have thought were itchy and scratchy and didn't feel nice, now I find very pleasant to work with and wear. So I think my kind of crossover yarn, I guess, from the soft merino sock yarns, which I still knit with, don't get me wrong, but kind of the transition from that to other types of wools that I would consider more rustic or woolly wools, sheepy wools, came with Jared Flood and Brooklyn Tweed's Shelter and Loft yarn. I have always admired Jared Flood and his patterns and designs, and when I saw that he was coming out with a yarn line in 2012 or whenever that was, I was really excited to try it out. And I was just in love with all the things he was knitting with it, the collections he was coming out with, using that yarn, and I knew I had to try some. So when I first tried it, I was able to see it in person at, I think, Churchmouth's Yarns and Teas on Bainbridge, as well as the Madrona Fiber Festival. And when I first touched it, I knew it was going to be a woolly wool, but when I first touched it, I was a little bit like, oh, this is going to be too itchy for me, I'm not going to be able to wear this. But I wanted to wear that wool and knit with it so much that I decided that was going to be the yarn that moved me from being somebody who was wool sensitive to somebody who wasn't. So I knit some things out of it, and I knit a sweater, I knit a shawl that I love, that I lost, and my mom gave me the yarn again to knit a new one, so I talked about that before. But I started knitting a lot of things in that yarn, and I really, really like it. And I found that the more I knit with it, the less itchy feeling it was, and I could wear it more and more. I started out always having to wear a long sleeve shirt underneath my sweater in that yarn. But then and I would still feel a prickle through my long sleeve shirt. But then after a little while, I didn't notice that so much anymore, and I decided, like, maybe I could wear a short sleeve shirt under here, and then that was fine. And so it kind of just was a process of seeing what worked and what didn't. Not seeing what worked and what didn't, but it was kind of just a process of making myself less sensitive to wool. And I'm really glad I did, because now I can knit with lots of things. But like I said, I'm in the process now of trying to become less sensitive to alpaca. Of course, it's not always the yarn that is what you could be sensitive to. So my skin is really sensitive in general to lots of things. And like laundry soap especially, and lotion, and food. Even just like things touching my skin could make me have a little rash or something. Whatever. I have really sensitive skin. So sometimes it's not always the wool that's what's causing an irritation. If you, for example, sometimes the dye might be what's causing the wool to be irritating to you, or the lanolin in the fiber. So that's another reason why I really suggest washing your yarn before you use it, and obviously washing your finished garments. So let me know what you guys think, and if you have any other tips for how to desensitize yourself, I guess, or become less sensitive to a wool itch. So the other question that I have, I think I'm going to save for next week, because I already answered this when I recorded the first time, obviously, and now it's getting long. So we will save that for next week. And so I hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day and a great week until I see you next. Happy knitting. Bye.